Hello and welcome back, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. We are back, of course, with Season 2 of the Mystic Readathon, and with Season 2 of the Mystic Readathon comes round 2 of my followers choose my TBR for the month. So, if you have not seen how we did this last year, I will have those videos in a card above and linked down below, but definitely go check those out so you get a better feel of what this video is, because we're going to be doing the exact same thing that we did last year. I had a lot of fun doing this last year. It was kind of entertaining for me to kind of see what people were voting for, especially because they were kind of voting blindly, and also seeing some people able to figure out what the books were and which factions were which. So that was really fun. So we'll see how it goes this time around this year. Just to kind of quickly summarize it, I'm going to be posting a poll on my Instagram story each week during September, and they will have 4 emojis in them. So each one of those emojis is going to correspond to a specific book. Those books then correspond to a specific faction. So the books are going to be books that either the title or the premise, something about the book is relevant to the faction. And so that's why the book goes to a specific faction, and then the emojis correspond to the books. So the people that are looking at my story that are voting, they just see the emoji, they don't know what the books are, and therefore they don't know which faction is which. But the idea is that they are blindly voting based on the emoji. Whichever emoji wins is the book that I will read, and whatever faction that corresponds to, they will be getting the points for that week going towards their team score. So I have my phone, and we are going to set up the first poll. So we're going to start with this as our backdrop. And let's see, let's go to poll. It's been a minute since I've done this, so let's see if I can even figure out how to do this. Okay, perfect. Week 1 choices. And let's see, this week we have Unearthly, I believe, is the name of the book. And I think this book, from my understanding, is about a girl who is half human, half angel, hence the hybrid. This is our hybrid pick for week 1. So that's our hybrid pick. And then, let's see, we'll do a buffalo. And this one is, I feel will be pretty obvious. This is one of the ones that I'm anticipating that people are going to know and be able to identify right away that this is for Buffalo Hunter Hunter, because I think this is a relatively recent release from Stephen Graham Jones. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure this book is about a vampire, so people just put 2 and 2 together. I feel like it's not hard to figure out what this one is. But this one is going to be our vampire pick for this week. And then we have another one that I think is going to be pretty obvious, and that is the dove emoji, and that is going to be for Serpent and Dove. That is going to be our witch pick for this week. And again, I feel like this one is pretty obvious. Again, if you know that these emojis correspond to books that then correspond to the factions, knowing that Serpent and Dove, I'm pretty sure it's about a witch and a witch hunter. I feel like, again, it's not hard to make that leap and figure out that that's what this emoji is for. So this one will probably also be kind of a dead giveaway, but it's fine. And then last but not least, we have our human pick. And to be honest, I actually feel like all the books that I've picked out for these polls, the human ones are typically the ones that I want to read the most, but I don't know if they're the ones that are going to be voted for. So for the human pick this week, we're going to go with a window emoji. I was trying to figure out what I could use for this. And again, I try to match the emojis either to the title, the cover, something along those lines. And so the cover of this book is a woman that is peeking out of the blinds of a window, and so hence the window emoji. But it is what is it called, Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice or something. I forget what it's called, but that is the book for the humans this week. I tried to make the humans, because human is such a general thing, it's easier to find a vampire book or a hybrid book or something like that, but what is a human book? That could be anything. So I tried to tailor the human picks for this month to mysteries, murder mysteries. So that is why we are going with this. This is a book that I've had on my TBR for a really long time. I think out of this list, the one that I would be most excited to win is probably D, the one for the humans. I think out of this list, the one that I'm least excited to read is probably B, which scares me because I feel again, this one is going to kind of be a dead giveaway, so I feel all the vampires are going to vote for this. But I think I'm least excited to read that because in the past, I've read stuff from Stephen Graham Jones, and I haven't really gelled with any of his work. So I'm nervous that I'm not going to like this, but we shall see. Let's add some text. What if we go for red? Okay, I think this is solid. So we have our poll ready to go, so I'm gonna hit send, and we'll see what the results are in a second. Well, it'll be a second for you. It'll be 24 hours for me. Today is the day. Today is the first day of the Mystic Readathon Season 2. Kickoff sprints start in about a half hour, so very excited for that. But I need to check the poll to find out which emoji won, therefore which book won, because that's what I'm going to be reading on sprints. You guys won't know what I'm reading because I'm going to have to put some kind of like mysterious title or something so you don't know which one won until this video comes out. But that's what I'm going to be reading, so I have to find out who won. So let's go into my Instagram. So let's see. Drum roll. Oh, it looks like Buffalo Hunter won, which is unexpected. I honestly was not expecting that to win. For a long time, it was like Serpent and Dove was gonna win. So I'm surprised that Buffalo Hunter like pulled through at the very last second and actually won. I will say that there were quite a few people on the hybrid team that voted for this, which I thought was really kind of hilarious because that was not the hybrid book. That was the vampire book, but they voted for it anyway. So like, you know, it's fine. And this was also the book that I was kind of dreading reading. Like, it was the one that I wanted to read the least on the list. So, like, that's not great for me. But yeah, it is what it is. This is what I'm going to have to read. There was a part of me that was hoping that there was going to be a tie and then I could just be the tiebreaker and I would read Serpent and Dove anyway. But alas, Buffalo Hunter is what won. So I am going to basically buckle up and get ready for whatever this ride is going to be. Like I said, I haven't had the best experiences reading this author's works in the past, so here's to, you know, a third chance. They say the third time's a charm, so we'll see if that's true. So I am going to go finish getting ready and get set up for kickoff sprints, and I will see you guys back here at least a third of the way through, possibly halfway through is when I'll do a check-in. So yeah, I'll see you guys then. Alright, so I am back with an update for Buffalo Hunter. So I am about to start sprints, and I am around like the 40-ish% mark. I am trying to decide what to do with this book. I knew going into this is going to be a little bit of a struggle just because Stephen Graham Jones is just not the writer for me. I haven't come across any works of his that I've just really like gelled with or meshed with very well. So I knew going into this is going to be a little bit of a struggle, but you know, I went into it optimistic-ish. But alas, it is not gelling with me. Now, I will say that out of the books that I've read of his, or short stories and things that I've read of his, this one is probably the best one that I've read. I'm not disliking this story. I just find that I'm not fully locked in. I find that I'm not fully invested in the story, and so as I'm like trying to get through this, a lot of things are either kind of like going over my head or I'm missing things and we're getting confused about the different timelines that we're in, the different POVs that we're getting, the different characters and their names and like who did what, and like it's just hard for me to keep up what's going on in the story. That's basically what's the issue for right now, is that I don't fully know what's going on. I feel like I'm 40% in and I don't really know what's happening. There is a POV that I am like kind of enjoying and interested in to see like where this story goes, and I think his name is Goodstab. I do like his POV, but then there's this other guy, I don't even know what his name is. It's like three something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I don't know what this man is talking about anytime he comes on the scene. I'm like, sir, what are you saying to me? I can't even come in here and tell you like what's happening. I can't give you like an update or like a synopsis or like, oh, these are the things that I've read so far, because I don't know. There's this guy who like comes to this church. I think it's the Goodstab guy. He like goes to this church and he talks to this guy who's like a preacher or something, and he's like telling him his life story, kind of like Interview with a Vampire style type of thing. And well, I guess let me go back, because it starts off with us reading from the POV of some girl, and she like found some journal entries or something, and I think the journal entries are journal entries that maybe her grandfather wrote or something, and so that's the preacher guy's POV. And then the preacher guy, what he wrote in his journal was him documenting a conversation or a series of conversations that he had with this Goodstab guy. So it's like the preacher guy is writing Goodstab's story, and then the girl is reading her grandfather's journal entries. Something like that. I don't even know if that's right. If you've read this book, you're probably like, oh, honey, you have no idea what's happening. And you're right, I don't know what's going on in this story. But that's kind of the gist of what I've understood so far. Hence the reason why I'm struggling a little bit with this, because it's just too many POVs that we're jumping into, too many characters, and then like also because of the time period that it's written in. The language is not super easy for me to follow because I don't typically read stuff that's like written in this time period and written in this way. So that's also kind of getting to me where it's just like, I don't know what y'all are talking about right now. So yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle. Like I said, I'm at 40 something percent. I might be like at 41%, something like that. I am going to continue reading this on sprints. My goal is to, by the end of the night, get to the 51% mark so that I can DNF. Because that's kind of what it's looking like. We'll see if by the end of the night I can get to 51%, and I will check in with you guys once I've done that. And yeah, we'll see what happens from there. Good morning. It is the day of the National Book Festival, so I'm up pretty early so that I can get ready and head on down to DC. It's a little bit of a journey, so excited for that. Excited to meet some authors, get some books signed, listen to some author talks. But we're here to do the update for this vlog. And so I believe the last time, because it's been a couple of days, I believe the last time I did like a check-in or an update, I was reading Buffalo Hunter x Hunter, and I was saying, I think it was Wednesday, I was saying that I, was sprinting and that I wanted to get to 50% by the end of the night. Like that was my goal. I got to like 48 or 49%. So basically 50. And then I even continued on past that in the days following. But then I did eventually end up DNFing at 66% or somewhere around 66%. I ended up DNFing mainly because I don't know, I still felt like I had gotten more than halfway into this book and I still wasn't quite following what was going to happen, or I wasn't following what was happening, and therefore I had no idea like what to even expect. Like I normally when I'm reading a book, I'm like, oh, is this gonna happen? Is that gonna happen? Like I have some options of things that could happen based on what has already happened. And when I got to like the 60% mark, I just was like, I don't even know what we're trying to do. I don't even know what the goal, like what is the protagonist's goal? Like what are they even trying to do to be able to figure out, is that how it's going to end or not? Like I'm just like, I don't even know what we're doing anymore. I had taken a couple of days off from reading. By a couple of days, I mean like literally like 1 or 2 days off from reading. And then I was like reading some other things for other projects and whatnot. And I noticed that I wasn't really thinking about the book. I wasn't thinking about picking it up. Or like I was thinking about it, but it was more in the context of like, oh, I gotta finish this vlog, not in the context of, oh, I want to finish this book. And so that was kind of like the first sign that I'm like, maybe I should just DNF this because I don't even really care that much about the book. I was thinking about, okay, maybe I should read today. And I was like, well, where did I leave off? Like, what was the last thing that happened in the story before I put the book down? And I was thinking about it and I was like, okay, I think I remember the last thing that happened. But based on the last thing that happened and even everything that's happened up to this point, I don't know that I even care what the ending is to this book. Like some books, you get FOMO, you want to know how it's going to end. So you keep reading, even if you're not enjoying it, you keep reading just because you simply want to know what's going to happen in the end. But with this book, I don't care what happens in the end. I don't know, for some reason, it just doesn't matter to me. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, like I want to know what's going to happen. Maybe I'll just look up spoiler vlogs. And I'm like, I don't even feel like I want to look up spoiler vlogs for this. Like I just simply do not care what happens in this story or how this story ends. Like maybe it's because I don't understand what's going on, that's the reason why I don't care how it ends, because I don't even know what's happening like currently. So yeah, long story short, I decided to DNF. So that's the end of that. But that means it is time to put up a new poll so we can figure out what the next book is that is going to be read for this video and for points for the team. So Buffalo Hunter x Hunter was for the vampire team. They will be getting those points. They'll be getting like the 50% of the total page count because I DNF'd it, but they'll still be getting points nonetheless. So let's go ahead and break out the good old phone here and do a new poll. So we're going to open up Instagram, and I already have a background picked out, ready to go, loaded up. So pick my reads for, move that up here, the Mystic Readathon. And I want to go with the same layout as last time. I think what I'm going to do for each one of these is have like basically the same layout and colors and fonts and whatnot, and just change the background image each time. So this time we have a nice little image of the Salvatore boarding house. Week 2 choices. So for the first option we have, I think it's called Bindlepunk Bruja. I can't remember exactly what it's called. We're going to do the tree emoji for that one because there's a tree on the cover. This one is going to be a little bit kind of like I think these emojis might be like a little more difficult than some of the ones that I've done in the past, just because the books were a little harder to, like, based on the titles and the covers, to find emojis that would work. So Binda Prunk Bruja, it's like the cover is an image of like a witch or a bruja, and like she has like her hand out and she has like this like tree looking image. I guess it's like a magic tree or something that she has in her hand, or at least that's what it looks like to me. So that's why I decided to go with the tree emoji for this one. So this will obviously be for the team witch. And then for the second option, I'm gonna go with an X-ray. I don't know why X-ray didn't come up when I put X. Like, how many emojis start with the letter X, but okay. We're gonna go with the X-ray, and this is gonna be for Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. I do really want to read this, but this book is a little bit on the longer side compared to some of the other ones that are in this list. So if it doesn't get picked, I won't be mad. But I do want to read it. I'm a little bit nervous though going into it if I do end up having to read it, because Olivia Blake was one of my top reads of 2024. The bar, you know, is set really high from Alone with You in the Ether, and that book was very different than what Masters of Death is supposed to be. So that is going to be option B. And the main character is a vampire, so this is going to be for the vampire faction. And then the third option, we are actually going to do an option from last year that did not end up getting selected. We're going to do the exact same emoji. We're going to do the briefcase emoji. And this one is for Murder Your Employer. I forget who the author of this is, but this is for Murder Your Employer. This is going to be for Team Human. I have been wanting to read this book for a very long time, and I just have not gotten around to it for one reason or another. But it is a book that I am very interested in reading. I feel like out of the options, this is probably the one that I want to read the most, I would say. So I hope that this one wins, although I don't know if it will. I don't know how intriguing a briefcase emoji is going to be, but that's the one that I felt like made the most sense based on the title. So that'll be for the human faction. And then we have option D. And for option D, we're going to go with a crown for the Iron King, which is a book that I don't remember how I found out about this book. I don't know if it was just for me researching hybrid related books, like books about people who are half this, half that kind of thing, or if it was a recommendation that I got like on Sprints or something. I don't remember how I came across this book, but this is about, I think it's a girl who's half human, half fae, I think. I can't remember, don't quote me on that. But this is obviously going to be for the hybrid faction. So we're just going to do some little tweaks here to try to make it look aesthetic. I'm trying to like make it so that you can actually see the house, but I also want like these different objects to be the right size and not look stupid. So yeah, might just not be able to see the house. It is what it is. Just pretend like you can tell that it's the Salvatore house in the background, because I can't get it to do what I want it to do. It's fine. And it is ready to be posted. So we are going to see what you guys end up voting for. Like I said, I think this one is going to be a lot harder. I feel like the first one was easy, like knowing that each book corresponds to a faction. Like I feel like the dove was obvious that it was serpent and dove. I feel like the buffalo was obvious that it was buffalo hunter. But this one, I feel like this one is a little bit harder. I feel like this one is a little bit trickier, because I don't think that anybody's going to guess that the tree is for the witches. Although witches and earth and stuff and nature tend to go together. So I feel like just off of that, you probably could figure out that that is for the witches. I don't think that anybody's going to get that the X-ray is for Masters of Death. I went with that because of the skeleton that's on the cover. That's the closest thing I could get to a skeleton emoji. So that's why I went with that. Now, if there are people who are participating from last year that might remember that I used that emoji last year, then they might figure out that it's for Murder Your Employer or that it's for the human team, because I did a whole vlog last year and that was part of last year's vlog. I just copy and paste it, like I didn't change anything about it. So if anybody from last year is paying attention, they might figure that out. But otherwise, this might be one of the more difficult rounds in terms of like trying to guess the emojis, but that's what makes it fun to see what people end up voting for. So I will check back in with you guys tomorrow once the 24 hours is up, once the poll has ended, and we'll see which one won. So we are back. It is the next day and I am ready to see what won this poll pick. I have an idea of what won, just because I was kind of like keeping an eye on it a little bit here and there throughout the day yesterday, but I haven't checked on it today, so like anything can change. Like I think the first round Serpent and Dove was actually winning, and then like overnight when I woke up the next day, all of a sudden Buffalo Hunter won, I think by like 1 vote or something. So you never know. Anything is possible. Anything can happen. So we are going to take a look and see what won. This is exactly what I expected. I expected that Masters of Death was going to win because it seemed pretty clear that it was going to be between B and D. Those were the two that were like the closest the last time I looked. So I am not surprised that this was the winner. This was not the one that I wanted to read the most, but probably second. If I had to rank them, like this was like the second one on the list that I wanted to read. And also, ironically, this is also for the vampire teams. The vampires have now won 2 weeks in a row, which I'm sure the other teams are probably not happy about, but I didn't vote for this, you guys did, so I don't know, maybe hopefully next time it'll be a different team. Hopefully the vampires don't get a clean sweep and win the entire thing all month, because that would be wild. I'll let you in on a little secret. The last time I checked the score, which was not yesterday, but the day before, the vampires were in 4th place, like overall, not specifically for round 1 or round 2, because we are currently in round 2. Which round 3 will be starting later on today. You guys will already know that by the time this video comes out, but at this point in time, it has not happened yet. I have not released round 3, but it's happening later today. But yeah, the last time I checked the score, the vampires were in 4th place, like overall, like cumulatively, they were in 4th place. So maybe it's a good thing that they won the poll pick the first week and the second week, because maybe they are going to need these points more than the other teams will. So fingers crossed this one is not a DNF. But yeah, I will be back once I've read a little bit of this book. Probably once I get maybe to the, close to halfway done, I'll try to check in and we'll see. I'll let you guys know how it's going. So I am back with an update. I have made it to the 58% mark of Masters of Death. And I don't know if I like this book. I wanted to like it, of course, but I don't know, something about it. I think, okay, here's the thing. Basically, you're following 2 different like storylines. There's the storyline that follows the godson of death. I think his name is Fox. And he's not a medium, but he tells everybody that he's a medium because he's the godson of death. Death can obviously talk to ghosts. So he'll just like summon his godfather and be like, oh, tell me what this ghost is saying. And then his godfather will tell him, and then he'll act like he's a medium. And so you get that story where you're following the godson of death. And we've gotten to the point now where someone has basically kidnapped Death and they're trying to get him back. And then you have this other storyline where you're following, I think her name was Viola or something like that. And she is a vampire real estate agent who turns into a cat at night, which is so random. And she is trying to sell this house, but there's a ghost in the house, and because he was murdered in this house, so he's like trapped there. I guess he has like unfinished business or whatever, and he keeps doing things to scare off potential buyers because he doesn't want the house to be sold. So she needs him to get out of here so that she can sell this house. And so they end up calling Fox, the fake medium, who they don't know is a fake medium, to come try to commune with this ghost that's in this house and get him out of here. And then that's when they find out that like Death has been kidnapped, and they end up kind of all teaming up to try to find out where Death is, like what happened to him, like basically rescue mission type thing. And the hope is that somewhere along the way, them doing this is going to help the ghost be set free so they won't be in the house anymore. And then something about like Death, he's basically a bookie, I think. And there's like some game that all the different like creatures and deities and things that they play, and he has like the ledger of like who's played and who's won, and like this ledger is apparently really important for some reason. And there's some guy, I think he's something, I don't even know what he is. He's like the Lord of, not the Lord of Death, but the Lord, I don't know, he's somebody important and scary, is like, I guess he's the one that has kidnapped Death. And he's trying to do something so that he can become the master. That's kind of where I lose the plot. Like, I don't really understand that part of it. There's so many characters in this story. I think that's one of the things that's really frustrating, is that there's so many effing characters in this story. And they come from all over. Like, there are angels, and there are vampires, and there's ghosts. there's like gods and demigods, you know, Greek mythology. Like there's just so much stuff that's just like thrown into this book that I can't even keep track of like the lore. There's just so much lore from so many different places. It almost reminds me of if you've ever watched like Scary Movie or stuff that's like that, where they take stuff from a bunch of different horror movies and like put it into a movie. It kind of feels like that, where it's almost like a parody of a bunch of different fantasy, like lore, mythology type of stuff. And they kind of just like dumped it, and it's also like humorous. So it's kind of, it feels like kind of a mess, honestly. Like there's so many characters. One of the things that I think is also really frustrating about this story is the fact that the characters are always arguing. And if you've ever taken like a theater class or done any kind of like improv, you know, they always tell you to say yes, and you know, because it keeps the scene going. Once you say no to something, then it basically like stops the scene. And they tell you not to argue, because arguing is like this, you're not pushing the story forward. And clearly Ivy Blake never took any kind of classes like that, because this whole book is basically just people in a room arguing with each other the entire time. They like randomly cut each other off in the middle of their sentences. Like it is kind of frustrating trying to follow this story and follow what's happening and who's talking. So I think that's one of the things that's like really kind of like irritating me. I really just want to like get through this book and be done with it. I do want to know how it ends. This is a little bit different because like with Buffalo Hunter Hunter, I didn't really care how that book ended. It made no difference to me what happened. But with this, I do kind of want to know what happens, but I just know like the process to get there is going to be so stressful, because they're probably just going to still keep arguing. And I have like 6 hours of this left to listen to. Also, there's like a romance happening. I forgot to mention this. There's like this romance happening that's like so, I don't want to say it's random, but like, it's like too much drama around this romance of like these two characters. I won't even say who the characters are, but like I literally do not care about this romance. It feels so forced. It does not feel like real or authentic. It feels very like soap opera-y, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like it's very like soap opera, like telenovela, like over dramatic. I'm just like, what? Why is this even in this book? Like, why are we even doing this right now? So there's a lot happening. I wish I was enjoying this more than I am, but sadly I'm not. So with that being said, I am going to finish Sprints and hopefully finish this book. I'm hoping that the next time you see me, I will have actually finished this book and not DNF'd it. But yeah, I'll keep you posted and check back in later. So I am back, finally finished Masters of Death. And yeah, I don't know about this one. I didn't love this the way that I hoped that I would based on the synopsis. And I also realized while I was reading this that this was on my 25 and 25. So I'm glad that this won, because I needed to read this book this year anyway. One of the few books on that list that it's actually going to have been read by the end of this year, because most of them probably won't get read. But that's a conversation for another video. I feel like this book was so chaotic. I honestly didn't really like any of the characters. None of them were super likable to me. They were all very annoying, which maybe is one of the reasons that I found it hard to get into the story, is because I didn't like anybody in the story. They either were boring, bad, or annoying. There weren't any characters where I'm just like, you know what? I like her, or I like him. Not a single one. Also, the romance. There were a couple of different like romances that were happening. There's probably like, I want to say like maybe 3 different like romances that are happening in this story. All of them were uninteresting. There was one in particular that I think I talked about in the last update clip that was just really over the top. They were really like, the author was really trying to sell it, and I just wasn't buying it. I'm just like, I don't care at all. There was another romance that was like a little more subtle, also a little more random, because we only really got to see them for like 5 seconds together, and all of a sudden it's like, we're in love, we got to spend the rest of our lives together, and it's like, what? Okay. So yeah, the romance was done really poorly, I think, in this book. Not that that was the focus of this book. This wasn't intended to be a romance book, but even still, I just feel like, why even include it if you're not going to do it right? And why include 3 different ones if you're not going to do any of them right? So yeah, hated that. I wish that they could have just removed the romance from the book altogether, to be quite honest, or maybe just like picked one to really focus on and develop and grow, instead of having 3 that kind of like weren't good. So yeah, that was annoying. Also, again, as I expected, the remaining 6 hours that I had to listen to was still just more of all the characters arguing and cutting each other off the entire time. So that made it really frustrating to get through it, because they're constantly like interjecting and cutting each other off and arguing and going back and forth. It's like unnecessarily long, because I would say like 70% of the book is just the characters going back and forth before they ultimately decide on something. It'll be like, no, yes, maybe, no, yes. Okay, fine, yes. And it's like all of those words were not necessary. You could have just said yes and we could have moved on to the next scene like 5 minutes ago. So that was really annoying, just listening to them argue. I also feel like I didn't quite understand like the game. Like this whole thing revolved around like this game. And I don't feel like, to me, I don't feel like the rules of the game were clear. First of all, they kept saying that the game, there are no rules. But then there's also like a way to win and a way to lose, and the way to win is to not lose. And it's like, I didn't understand. I still don't understand. I finished the book and I still don't get it. But I guess the moral of the story is like being human and experiencing life to the fullest is worth it because we're all going to die in the end. I don't know. That's what I took away from it. I don't know. Sure. I will say it was funny. That is the one thing that I will give this book like credit for. I feel like it was quite funny. There were a lot of moments where I found myself like kind of like laughing out loud. Even though I half the time didn't understand what was going on, there were moments where like different characters would say little funny, like snarky one-liners and take jabs at each other and stuff. So like that was kind of fun. But yeah, otherwise it just was like, it just felt like pure chaos in my brain. It felt like I was watching a really bad improv. The story would maybe make a lot more sense if I could see it rather than like trying to read it or listen to it, because again, there's so many characters talking and they're all cutting each other off, and there's like all these different like subplot stories happening within the main story, and then you also get all these like random flashbacks. And because I listened to most of this rather than reading it, I don't know if maybe reading it, if it would have been more helpful for this piece, but there were moments where you would like get flashbacks and then you would jump back to present time, and sometimes you would get flashbacks within a flashback. And it just was like, I'm like, okay, what time are we in right now? Like, is this happening right now, or is this a flashback? Like, I found it hard to kind of keep up with when we were jumping into these different scenes, what was happening now and what was something that happened in the past. For the most part, I think I was following, but there were definitely moments where I'm like, I don't know if that just happened 5 seconds ago or 5 years ago. So like that also made things a little bit confusing. I kind of want to at least look at a physical copy of this book just to see like the written structure, if it's like maybe written out somewhere, or like if there's like little page breaks or something to make those things more understandable, because it was a little bit confusing trying to listen to that. This reminded me honestly of like something that I could see like on Adult Swim. Or like even like a BoJack Horseman, like that type of vibe, like I could see this type of story with these type of characters and these type of jokes and things that are being made. This is definitely like, if you like Adult Swim type stuff, or you like, you know, adult cartoon type stuff, that is what I see this. Like, this would be great for someone who really likes that kind of stuff. If you know someone that like loves that kind of stuff and you're trying to get them into reading, this might be a way to get them into reading potentially. But yeah, it wasn't for me. I think I'm gonna go with a 3.25 for my rating. I looked at other books that I rated 3 stars, 3.25, and 3.5 stars, and I feel like the 3.25 is like a good sweet spot based on other books that I've already read and like how I feel about those versus how I feel about this. My brain needs a break. But my brain's not going to get a break because we're about to go into week 3. So I'm going to do the week 3 poll in just a second. That'll be in a separate video. So yeah, no breaks for me, but I feel like I need a break after reading this chaos. But yeah, that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you voted in the polls, thank you so much for voting, even if you didn't vote for what you thought you were voting for. But yeah, I am going to end this video and I'm going to get ready to start the next video, which is the beginning of week 3's poll pick. So yeah, join me over there if that video is out by the time you're watching this. And if it's not out yet, then turn on your post notifications, hit that bell so that you are notified when that video does get posted, because it'll be coming in the next week or 2, depending on when you're seeing this. So yeah, be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I'd love to have you as part of the channel. Check out some of my other content before you go, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.